So there's been a lot of discussion lately in the news about the correlation between violent acts and video games. Now, me personally, I don't want to discuss the school shooting that happened quite some time back because I can only handle so much fucked up shit in my own life, and I don't want to go in depth on that. It was a terrible situation that should not have happened if people had been paying attention to what they should have been paying attention to, and that's as far as I'm going to go on that particular subject. As for the news going ballistic over video games, well, this is nothing new for us. If you've been gaming for any amount of time, you know that the news loves to blow shit out of proportion, and they love to blame it on a scapegoat. And what's easier these days to blame than video games? Video games are unlike any other medium in existence, in that they allow you to interact with the media itself. You can listen to music and you can watch a movie, but a video game, you can do things that you can't do anywhere else. Hell, there's even video games like Audio Surf that allow you to interact with the music itself. But this is a situation that is pretty much very common in these days, but every single time it happens, it's a big, huge scare, and then within a few months, people don't give a shit anymore, and then something horrible happens again, and all of a sudden it's back to scapegoating. I'm going to give my 2 cents upon it. Now, I've heard from several different sources that video games are the root of all evil. I heard an NRA associate talk about how it was the fault of video games. And this is the same guy whose only real viewpoint on existence is that the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. That is really fucking crazy. I understand that guns do good things as well as bad, but to view that in such a way is pretty much in the same valley as video games, because that's the way video game logic goes. Oh, how do you stop the bad guy? You fucking kill him. In the real world, you kind of gotta act like an adult, so I can't take an NRA associate very seriously when he uses that kind of logic in regards to safety, but he uses video games as a scapegoat for violence. Violence has existed since before video games were even created. And if they want to use video games as a violent scapegoat, then I'm just going to say it was Hitler playing too much Tetris that caused the Holocaust. When it comes right down to video games, they're going to blame the violent ones. But the problem is, if you allow these people to blame video games for violent acts that take place, you're going to open up 2 cans of worms. Number one, you're going to have every single psychopath who wants to go on a killing spree start blaming it on Call of Duty or Gears of War. These are interactive entertainment mediums. I've been playing violent video games since I was a wee lad, and you don't see me going on killing sprees. The worst I ever do is cuss someone out on the internet. But at the end of the day, you're going to have every murderous monstrosity that society can create saying that it was the video games that made them do it. On the other end of the spectrum, you're going to have very angry and scared mothers and fathers who are wanting to get rid of video games because they are turning their children into monsters. This is a slippery slope. You see, for every Call of Duty out there, for every Halo and Gears of War that has copious amounts of blood and gore, along with lots of gun violence, you have other games that aren't necessarily violent, but people will view in such a way. What I mean is, what's more violent? Shooting a terrorist in the head with a MAC-10? Or if you're playing, let's say, Ratchet and Clank and falling into a pit of lava? When you start to examine the violence within video games, whether it is cartoonish violence or realistic violence, you open up a can of worms. Think about it. A bullet to the head is very quick and relatively painless. Burning alive in lava is a slow, painful, horrifying death. And if you start letting video game violence be the root of all evil that you have to get rid of, parents are initially going to start viewing games with more scrutiny, especially if it's something as harmless as a Ratchet and Clank game. Oh god, he fell into lava. Restart the checkpoint. You're fine. This is a problem that needs to be fixed. You can't go around blaming video games for all the violence in the world, because people are going to be fucked up and they're going to do crazy stuff regardless of what their personal hobby is. I myself, as well as other YouTubers like Alpha Omega Sin, Main Event, Big Dan's VGM, The Razor Fist, Silent Rob, all of us play video games. All of us watch horror movies. All of us listen to varying degrees of different kinds of music, whether it be metal or rap, and some of the lyrics can be very violent. Have you ever watched or listened to Death Clock? That is some intense shit. And I have never once thought to myself, I want to kill a crowd of people. Because at the end of the day, it is not the video games. It is the people. And if your child or your relative or your friend is psychotic, it is up to you to get them the mental help they need, instead of blaming guns or video games, because that is not the root of the issue. You can't blame an inanimate object for doing anything. Guns do not pull their own triggers. Video games do not play themselves. You have to blame the person. If at any point in my life I decide I want to go all sociopathic and do some heinous shit, I promise you I'm not going to say the video games made me do it. I'm going to live up to my stupid shit. People make mistakes. They do terrible things. And it's not up to you to blame a scapegoat. It's up to you to fix the problem. We need better mental and medical care in this country for people who have issues. I went to school with a lot of these people. We called them cutters, okay? They hurt themselves. After a while, maybe that's not enough and they had to hurt someone else. It happens. I'm not trying to blame anyone. I'm just saying you need to help these individuals. Me, I view video games in a greater light today than I used to. For example, when I was a lot younger, my cousin would play Grand Theft Auto, and I hated Grand Theft Auto because I viewed it in a different light. Every time she would play it, I would see her running over pedestrians with a car and shooting people, shooting cops. And I thought, this is a terrible video game. This is what instills violence in people. And then, years later, I found the 3-pack with Grand Theft Auto 3, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, and Grand Theft Auto Vice City for $20. And I thought, that's 3 games for $20. I might as well try them out. And before you know it, hours in, I was giggling like a maniac, running over pedestrians and shooting cops. And guess what? I'm perfectly fine. I have no history of violence. I have no criminal record, no probation officer. I have nothing. No drug affiliation, nothing in my record. I am a well-functioning member of society. I played Grand Theft Auto 4 and got my wanted level all the way up to 5 stars and blew up vehicles and shot down helicopters, and I'm perfectly fine. I have lancered my fair share of locusts. I have sticky grenaded my fair share of Covenant, and I have teabagged my fair share of terrorists on Call of Duty. And I'm a perfectly functioning member of society. At the end of the day, don't blame the video games. Don't blame the inanimate objects. And damn sure don't listen to the NRA. Fuck those guys. Listen to yourself. Get help for people that are close to you. And if someone has issues, look at the problem and not the product. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If I've missed any important subjects, please comment down below and let me know your opinion. Because at the end of the day, you give them any leeway to start governing our video games, and that's just going to open up for governing our music, governing our movies, governing us ourselves. Take care, everyone.